Hello and welcome to Talent Explosion. I'm Bill Doherty, your host. Very happy that you joined in today. So let's get on with the show. Pace mio Dio, Peace, My God, from The Force of Destiny by Verdi, sung by the legendary Aprile Millo. Aprile, thank you so much for joining us on Talent Explosion today. How are you doing?
I'm a little bit like that character in that opera, asking for a little bit of peace and hoping for good times everywhere. You know, to get right into the emotion right away. Spectacular music.
It's so tough right now with this pandemic and everything. Um, we're all, in this state of like whatever, and it's very hard for all of us. I just have to tell you that I have adored you and your singing like my entire musical life. You
Thank
are
you so much.
a musician and an incredible singer. In that rendition of Pace Mio Dio that you just sang for us, it just took my breath away. That high B flat that you just sang pianissimo, so effortlessly. Um, there's so much character to your voice. It's unbelievable, but there are those special moments, and in that aria, that is a special moment for me. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I love the piece.
We have a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about Opera
Okay.
Vision, which is a very exciting thing that Aprile is doing right now for young singers and to help, forward and advance opera. But before we get to that, I just want to do for our listening audience a little brief reflection about your career
Okay.
and everything. So, okay, you were born in New York City. Tell us how your interest in opera and in singing began in music, and how things sort of went along when you were a young girl.
Oh, briefly, when you see your mom and dad do anything, the first group or the first influences you have are your family. So mom and dad would listen to opera, and much like you and I, when we're listening to something we really love, our face goes somewhere. And I say that it goes to paradise or it goes to a divinity. And when I used to see my father and mother start to sing or they would listen to something, their faces would disappear to another world. So I wanted to find out what that world was. And then I realized I could sing and did a lot of Legion of Mary and uh, uh, shall we say, conventions and things like that, just to see how it would feel to sing. And I sounded like a 40-year-old midget. I mean, it was very advanced very early because my father, a very good teacher, my mom, very good teacher, but it wasn't even like they legitimately trained me to sing. I just asked them, how do you do this?
And your father sang at New York City Opera, right? I mean, he was a
New
pretty
York City
celebrated
Opera,
singer.
everywhere he sang, they went nuts for him. I have to say, he sang for Victor Di Sabata, who brought him to La Scala just about the same time that Di Stefano had the argument in, I believe, New York or Dallas with something that had happened where he then wanted to return to La Scala. And then my father, of course, as an American, one of the first signed, they took him out, because they wanted Di Stefano. Of course, he had precedence, and that's legitimate, but it would have been a marvelous thing because Victor Di Sabata brought him. Um, Dad sounded like Caruso, and Mom sounded like Muzio. So I grew
Wow.
up in a fantastic house, full of inspiration and full of serious application.
I'm sorry, you didn't have any formal training with them when you were very young, or did they really teach you? Did you do exercises? Did you sing the Vagai
Well, they
exercises,
didn't
things
have a
like that?
lot of time. They didn't have a lot of time, and it was always just whenever I could grab them. My teeth were literally as high as the keyboard, and I would say, "Dad, can you give me a lesson?" And they would give me a lesson. And my mother would do a lot of introducing me to literature of music. She would say, "I want you to hear this. I want you to hear that." She introduced me to Schubert, to Brahms, to the formal leader, and then she said, "Okay, so let's get into the Italian." and we learned the arias, and she taught me Italian. It was the quickest way I've ever learned a language in my entire life because mother was, she was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And an actress, both of them on stage. I saw them do, which was out of their fach, more or less, but they sang the Cavalleria Rusticana for an event there to raise money for, I believe it was La Folia.
Wow.
And oh my, it didn't look like mom or dad. It looked like the characters. And I said, where'd they go? And then I was lost. I said, this world is amazing. You step into another world where everything is on harmony. Everything is in drama. Everything is amplified emotion. Loved it. Loved
So
it.
you didn't really have any formal training as a kid, but then
That's about as formal. That's about as formal as you can get. It would be maybe once every 2 weeks, because remember, I'm 9 years old. So it can't be
right.
something that taxes an unformed larynx that's fast. But when you think about it, Pasta, Malibran, all of these people sang when they were 16, 17. They had to have begun at 12, 13. The orchestras were a tiny bit smaller and they tuned lower. So there wasn't so much taxing on the throats as there are now. I mean, when you consider they have to reinforce the violin necks, can you imagine what we have to do in order to withstand the pressure of the tension of singing in any kind of tessitura? So they were calm with me, but any studies I had, anything I know about singing, my mom and dad taught me.
And then you went to California, right?
No, we were in California for most of my childhood. I went to Hollywood High. 1976, we did Hello, Dolly. Regis Philbin came and did an entire story on it. We had people round the block. We won the Macy's that year. It was really, really formidable. And I was doing high D's in the middle of the Hello, Dolly, because if you sing it in the regular key, it's way down here. It's way, 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 way low. So I brought her into more like top, and she, before the parade ends with a high D flat. So a lot of the kids who see this young lady on stage, the entire school went nuts over it. They said she's an opera singer, and like Regis said, when was the last time you heard of a 17-year-old who wanted to be an opera singer? God bless his soul. We just lost him.
And so you were a resident artist with San Diego Opera.
Right. It was the first place I went and sang was for Licia and for Tito Capobianco and for Gigi Capobianco, for Lee Strasberg, Beverly Sills, all those folks in San Diego. Tito had put together a really incredible group of people. But as is the problem with all the early stuff with me is I knew what I wanted to do. And they kept saying, you're only 17, you're only 18 years old, you're that much old. You cannot be singing Casta Diva, you can't be singing. I said, yes, I absolutely can.
Was Licia actually like that too? Because Licia was my mentor as well, and she was a little bit on the edge all the time.
She backed me entirely and had originally given me the award there for the first prize. But because my mother and I argued so badly, and they put me in Mimi, they put me in La Rondine, they put me in all this stuff, and I choked. I just had the worst time. When they left me to my own devices, the whole board was saying, you know, she's doing fine. Why are you messing around with this? But we knocked heads. I remember a confrontation between Tito and my mom that is legendary. And he was very kind, very wonderful, but it was Licia that understood.
And
totally.
Folks, just so that you understand, we're talking about the great soprano Licia Albanese, who was mentor to Aprile and also was my teacher. Many of you who have followed my show and who live here in the villages and in Florida, you remember Licia Albanese. She came for years, probably 15, 16 years. Every year for a couple of months, she would stage an opera with us and give master classes at the Church on the Square, which is now the Sharon Theater. And Licia was really one of the greatest sopranos who's ever lived. Her interpretation of Madama Butterfly will go down in history. Yeah, just an amazing woman. She's like my grandmother. We lost her 6 years ago. Actually, 6 years ago on August 15th. It was Ferragosto, and
Yeah.
she
I
passed
took off
away that
for the
year.
best vacation.
God rest her soul. Really, really an inspirer. She was a great performer, but she inspired her audience, and she later in her career inspired young singers as well.
Oh, she was amazing. And she was really the one who took all of the early steps for me, because she was the one who suggested, to stay calm with the whole thing with the San Diego Opera Center. But she said, do yourself a favor, don't do these apprentice programs, because they're
Right,
not going to know what you are. They're not going to
right,
know. And so
yeah.
I listened to her. I went immediately to Italy. I sang the Voce Verdiane, won it, one of the youngest people to win it, unanimous. And so I said to Licia, you are absolutely right. Then I went on and did the vinyas, and I wanted to see how I stacked up against world talent, and it gave me quite a lot of encouragement. I was happy about it. And then I went to New York shortly thereafter to sing for my agents there that were Marianne and Gerard Seaman, who were the first agents of Placido. And they had
Wow.
signed me. Oh my, when you think about these people, all these people that come together to do this thing, it's amazing. And they're gone too, God bless them. But they set up an audition just on a lark to go sing for the New York City Opera first, which I did, for John White, who had had numerous fights with my father. So when he said, "What's your name?" and I am Aprile Millo, right? So he said, "Millo, Millo." I said, "Yes, my father is." So we had a lot of fun with that. He was very gracious. It was a different day. He had a tie on. He looked like how you're supposed to with opera. There was a marvelous sense of old maestro. And they
Sure.
offered immediately Alceste, Butterfly, Cavalleria Rustica, and it was all over the place. And my mother said, "Oh, they don't have a vision about what you're supposed to be. They just want to use you. So be very careful. Be very careful." This was
Right.
before Beverly took over as the head. When I then said, "Look, I'm here in New York," I came back to New York to do an audition at the Met, just on a lark. And I happened to luck out having Larry Stayer, who I adored, and Charlie Reeker, and they were the only two people in the room. And I started singing, and I was wearing my grandmother's 1940s couture green dress with pearls, very high Charles Jourdan, and my hair was all the way down the back. But Lecha said, just go and sing. You never know. And
Right.
they went crazy. Larry jumped up immediately. He said, "Oh my God, Jimmy has to hear this. Jimmy has to. You're beautiful. This is amazing. How old are you?" The rest is history. They asked for the program. I fought them. I didn't want to do it. But it all worked out well when Maestro Levine then took personal interest after I sang for Von Karajan. And there was a lot of really lovely, lovely stuff, a chance to grow up a little bit more. And after Jimmy got involved, then it was really very pleasant.
Right. I mean, he adored you and sort of took you under his wing as far as the Met is concerned. Is that not right?
Well, I mean, they thought they had discovered the Verdi soprano, and what he did to me, I knocked heads with several other heads of the company that were there at that time. I'm trying desperately to remember her name. She was very funny. She had been a part of the Sutherland. I can't remember her name. And probably I don't want to because I don't want to be mean to her. But we locked heads. She offered me the celestial voice in Don Carlo as the debut, and I said, no, 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 I'll wait
Right.
until you think I'm ready, because I don't want to appear in small roles. Well, that was the end of it. So she made my life very difficult there. And then Jimmy said, "Look, I need to hear you on stage." And I went and I sang the Tu che la invoco from La Vestale. And I
Uh-huh.
thought I was having my last time singing there, so I wore a cocktail dress from Rome. I did my hair up in the 1940s kind of thing, and I thought, this is it, it's over, it's done. I was an absolute nut on the stage, sang beautifully. All these people were in the audience going nuts, and I thought that they were just, this is it. This is my goodbye after 2 years. They're not going to extend it for another year. So Jimmy comes running to the front and says, "I need to see you. I need to see you in my office. But do me a favor, sing this." And I went, "No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm going to sing the Suicidio because it'll be my last time seeing her on stage." You're nuts. So I got back to his office. He said, "Are you calmed down now?" I said, "No, it's okay, Jimmy. I understand. I'm difficult because I know what I want to present as the music. I know how I want to do it. All your staff is telling me you can't do that." And I'm saying, if you have to be a star to do that, is what they told me. And I said, I'll never be one if I don't. So we
Exactly.
get into all of this. He understood. That was what was great. He understood what I was saying, and he likes people that are slightly, different. All opera people used to be really crazy and fun and, bigger than life. And so he
Well, I
said,
think that great artists, they have something inside of them that makes them special, and that same thing that makes them special, that makes them a star, sometimes can be a little bit of a curse as far as getting along with the flow, going along with the flow
well,
and
remember,
stuff like that.
I came at a time just after Tibaldi had left, way after Tibaldi had left, and they didn't really have versions of my kind of voice there.
Right,
There were wonderful voices there, but they did not do it all'italiana, the way that Licia liked it, the way that then
exactly.
Beverly Sills eventually liked it, then Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, who then took me to Von Karajan. I mean, when you heard a voice, then you did things for it. That's what
Well,
Elizabeth
and
did.
also, come on, you just have an exceptional voice. I mean, it gives me chicken skin. I mean, what do you call that? Goosebumps in English. Um, but yeah, I
Thank you.
mean, just the sound and then the style is amazing. So, all right, before you made your Met debut, though, you ended up making your debut at La Scala,
Right.
replacing Mirella Freni, right?
Well, the thing was, after Von Karajan heard me, he sent me immediately to Leone Magera because Leone was supposed to prepare me for 4 arias that they wanted to do as a test for an aria disc with Von Karajan.
Okay.
And he said, I need you to go and sing for Leone Magera, and I need you to get yourself prepared in about 12 pieces, but we're going to use 3 or 4 as a test disc for Deutsche Grammophon. Now, you know that if Von Karajan is going to take the time with the Berlin Philharmonic to do a test disc, it's going to happen. But
Right.
he wanted to try it out, wanted to see what I would do. He and I hit it off like nobody's business. I had fun with him. He said, I don't, what do you want? What do you want from me? How can I help you? And I said, well, at that time, I did not really understand his scope. But I said, whatever you want to do. I said, how many Tabaldis do you have lying around? How many people that know the old school do you have lying around? He said, nobody,
You
nobody.
know,
He
one
said,
of
that's
the
why I
great
like
things about his conducting is that he was able to, I mean, he led the orchestra, and he led the music, but he led it in a way that let the singer shine. He understood somehow innately in his body what singers needed to have happen in
I
order to be
can't tell you.
expressive. And
I
he
can't tell
led
you
everything
how.
in the way that you could go.
Exactly.
You never get the sense that any of the singers are fighting with the orchestra whenever he's conducting.
Well, what's fantastic and what a lot of the young maestri today have to learn is that it's not just one way. It is stylistically, of course, tempered by the idea that you're singing Mozart, you're singing Verdi, you're singing Puccini, you're singing Meyerbeer, così. But if you realize that the Di Stefano Chenier is going to be different than Corelli's Chenier and Del Monaco's Chenier, then you can't do a cookie cutter. And the young maestri today try to do everything. It's going to be just one way, and he didn't, because the great maestri know flex, move with the person. Each soul is different. Each harmonic is different. Each approach it brings a beauty. So he very kindly sent me to Leona. Leone said, look, there are 2 performances that are open of Hernani here at La Scala, but you have to sing for Riccardo Muti. So I flew all the way to London with Elizabeth Schwarzkopf helping me get there. Otherwise, I would not have been able to. My mother and my sister in tow, and we sang for Riccardo Muti, and Riccardo said, this is a legitimate Verdi soprano, absolutely. He said, yes, no question. So I'm sent there by Von Karajan, and Leone Magera. So, of course, Maestro Muti. He inadvertently discovered something, you know? So he gave me the job. I came back. I did the La Scala at 24, and then came back to the Met really, really ready and roaring to try and do my own debut there, which then presented itself with the Simon Boccanegra.
Exactly. And then after that, you won the Richard Tucker Award and the Maria Callas Award.
Yes. I mean, it's interesting. After you have success, a lot of awards find you. It
Right.
would be more interesting if these awards found you before.
First. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's a spectacular honor. I loved Mrs. Tucker. I got to know Sarah Tucker very briefly, but I adored her. And she said, "Oh, my husband would have loved you.
Yeah.
This is one he would have really enjoyed." And the Tucker Foundation, they do such wonderful work. They try their hardest. And the Maria Callas Award was really something in Frankfurt. That was an unforgettable evening. Unforgettable.
I bet. I bet. I mean, even just to be able to affiliate your name with a name like Maria Callas, right, is just spectacular. And then you made your Carnegie Hall debut with Carlo Bergonzi in I
Yes.
Lombardi alla prima crociata. And tell us about what that was like. Okay, I I was always a lyric baritone, but Leach always tried to make me a tenor. And so I ended up always listening to Bergonzi because I loved
Was a
the
baritone
sound.
who went to tenor, right?
Yeah, so what was it like making your Carnegie Hall debut with Bergonzi? Wow.
Well, it's interesting because Bergonzi had met me when I was 20 years old and I had won the Voce Verdiane. And he was the president of the Giuria. So when we then had the chance to do it with Yves Queller and on the Opera Orchestra of New York, the Lombardi, it was so sold out it wasn't funny. They were hanging off the rafters. Because, of
Wow.
course, whenever Bergonzi sang anywhere, but they were also hearing, I had done a William Tell that had gone very, very well. And so everyone was buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. We had had the debut at the Met, so they wanted their opportunities to hear. Meanwhile, I get on stage and we're making music, and Carlo, the minute he heard me, he said, "Oh, this is exactly where I hoped it would go. You're doing so beautifully. Let's make music together." When he opened his mouth, and I got to know the family very well, and I love Marco to this day. His son Marco has the beautiful hotel in Busseto where we all stay, the Due Foscari. Unbelievable singing. The love duet is just. I listen to now. We're interweaving with each other. That they don't do this anymore. They don't know what he knows. There's a real understanding of the language, but there's also the inner melody of the language, which was so important. And he was a poet, the
Yeah,
poet,
yeah.
a vocal poet.
You've had the great opportunity of working with the absolute best singers in the world. Um, and so uh, tell us a little bit about the first time that you sang with probably who will go down as being the greatest tenor in the world since Caruso, Luciano Pavarotti.
You have to remember, I'm the daughter of a tenor. And my father sounded like Caruso and Merli and all the old schools, so I was a little bit cocky with Luciano. And his father had heard me. His father, Fernando, was also a wonderful singer, but not professionally engaged. He didn't do the perfezioni to fix it, but he had a fantastic instrument. And he went to Luciano and he said, "I've heard this young lady. She's really, really wonderful." So when I came to Luciano, Luciano had a sort of like an open ear about it. His wife was then representing me in Italy. And I thought, okay, we're going to sing together. But the very first time happened when we didn't expect it. And Cosotto and he were singing Aida at the Met. And I had to step in to take it in the rehearsal, just the Otta Radio. It was the first time we sang together, and Cosotto was running all over the house going, "Oh, ma I due voci vanno benissimo insieme. They go fantastic together. These are two Italian voices." She was so sweet.
Wow.
She was amazing. The first time singing with him was taking over for Eva Marton in Trovatore. and she got momentarily indisposed, and so I got to sing the whole performance, and it's on recording. There is a TV recording of it. He had heard from his father, right? He had heard that I've been doing well. And he also would go on to ask me to sing in concerts with him after. But you can see him on the tape, and it's the sweetest thing because he went on to become like my musical brother, one of the best friends I ever had in my life. I love him to death. What you heard in his sound was him. It was everything that's great about Italy and everything that's great about a human being. Open, generous, wonderful, smart, shrewd, good businessman, no fool. But, you know, he was, but here, this is our first contact, and he's hearing me do stuff, and it was like, you can see him, and you can see his eyes are studying me on this tape for what I'm doing. And you can see that when we're on a high note, there, sei tu del cielo disceso, he moves me to get off the note to be sure I get off the note. So, and you see me burst out laughing. I thought, oh, this is just so great. This is just what I felt so happy. So happy.
All right, we've got a little clip right now of you singing the Libiamo from La Traviata with Luciano.
Oh, nice.
It's from one of the Pavarotti Plus concerts. I think it was Avery Fisher Hall.
Yes, Avery Fisher was the only one I did for whatever reason. And we had a fantastic time that night. And he was terrific. He sang Don Carlo with me, and he sang Hernani with me.
We're just going to listen to this Libiamo from Pavarotti Plus, Aprile Millo, and Luciano Pavarotti.
And here they come, as Maestro Pavarotti leads them on. Sopranos, Elizabeth Olaque, Aprile Millo, and Deborah Voigt. Mezzo-sopranos, Barbara Dever and Eugenie Grunewald. Tenor, Stephen Mark Brown, baritone Juan Pons, and bass, Roberto Scandiuzzi. The Brindisi from Verdi's La Traviata.
Che la bellezza rifiora e là fuggeva l'ora sinebria voluta liviam nei dolci fremiti che suscita l'amore poiché quell'occhio alla cuore ogni possente va. Amore fra i calici più caldi baci avrà.
And that's a rousing conclusion to our Pavarotti Plus. The Brindisi Libiamo from the first act of Verdi's La Traviata with Aprile Millo as Violetta, Luciano Pavarotti as Alfredo, and our core of solo singers.
Wasn't that magnificent? And I noticed Luciano gave you a nice kiss on your forehead when he was finished. That's so cute. Okay, tell us some, before we talk about Opera Vision, which we're going to get into in detail here in a second. Tell us some other highlights that stand out in your professional singing career. I know you're still singing because you just did a concert at Carnegie Hall with the New York City Opera.
Sold out a 3-day coverage in the New York Times that I had no idea they would do. That was so gracious of them. It got the name right back into circulation with a sense of real intrigue. We were sold out. The house came down. And there's lots of other stuff coming up. It's just we have to now wait until COVID is breathing its last, and then we'll be able to announce. But there's some lovely things coming up. In the meantime, I hope to do maybe a little live concert recital, maybe online. But I think that's not the way to hear a voice. I think you should hear them live.
Well, if you need a pianist, I happily come and play for you. And also, listen, Aprile, we want to have you here in the villages singing with the Central Florida Lyric Opera. And hopefully we can do that very soon. I want to really engage our audiences into what you're doing with Opera Vision, because it's something that is near and dear to my soul. When I founded the Central Florida Lyric Opera, the entire purpose of our company was to give opportunity to young singers who other companies wouldn't give leading roles, whatever. And that was what Licha loved about our company as well. But hopefully we're going to have you here soon. And now, if you would please, I would like you to talk a little bit about this project, your foundation, Opera Vision, and what it's all about. It started just a few years ago, right?
We're in our 6th year. It started in, I think, 2015 in Urbania at the Centro Studi. And we realized that was, it took too much time doing the language component part of it, because, of course, that was what that school was all about. We wanted more of a musical component. So we moved with the gracious invitation of the Comune di Busseto, which, of course, for me, I thought, oh, my God, we're there right near Parma in the Terra di Verdi. So it was perfect. We went over. We had the biggest success in conjunction with the Fondazione Renato Tebaldi Museo and with the Casa Barezzi, which is where the young Verdi played for the very first time, and also is a fantastic museum there. The Verdi Museum, the Boeto Museum. You can see that the entire city and the environment around it is about music. So I began an association with a fantastic soprano named Dr. Maria Vetere. And she said, we really need to kind of develop some kind of a little summer program, because she had been asked to do that for the Urbania part. When we saw how tremendously successful it was, people were coming out of the woodwork. But we could only use a certain amount of people because there's only so much time in a day, and we want to be able to be hands-on. And I said, I like the aspect that we're in Busseto because Verdi walked these streets.
Sure, absolutely.
And we go and we meet, we go to Torre del Lago, we go to all of these places around here to feed the spiritual soul with the manna from heaven, I call it, where you get to see the composer as a human being.
Sure.
How can you ever then sing his music like they're just notes on a page when you've seen where he died, where he lived, where he had his loves, where he had his tragedies, his successes? We got in at La Scala. They opened the curtain for everyone on the stage, so of course that gives you a sense of this is where you want to be. You know, and the
Sure.
Italians have been extraordinary. I mean, they have been extraordinary. And now, you know, when we didn't get to go this year, we did an online version, which actually worked very well. But again, you have to be together. But we had about 45 people online. It was the most amazing thing. So Busseto for me, eventually I want to turn into a sister city with Salzburg because we have that liaison, and I want to make some really huge area there and give performing opportunities to the young people that are really really good that sing. We have Maestro Richard Bonning who comes every year so far. Every year we've done it, he's been there.
Don't know. Richard Bonning is a wonderful, probably one of the greatest conductors of all time. He was the husband of the great soprano Joan until she passed away. Just amazing. I heard a recording, Aprile, that you sent me from Busseto last year, I think.
The Puritani. With
Yeah.
with Maria Vetere and a young Pavarotti, this boy, he can go to a G
Yes.
above high C. He looks a lot like a young Pavarotti, but what's spectacular is that when Richard heard him and then heard Maria, he said, first off, that's an authentic Italian soprano, and then
Right.
this is an authentic Italian voce di bel canto, okay, for tutte e due, for the both of them. So you look at it and say, okay, this is starting to get very exciting because that night, sometimes the Italians can be a little bit cynical. We broke the cynicism that night because it was, oh, it's not possible. This was, and there were other young singers that night that did unbelievably well. We have some coloratures that will blow your head off, but
Yeah.
they're elegant. It's not this chicken that clucks. Everything is firm. Right now, we're trying to go against the modern school. Not you, of course, because you're from Licia, you're from the old school.
Sure.
But the old school, not the modern idea of everything sounds like a trill today. Nothing is firm, nothing is on the breath. Not to say,
Exactly.
in general terms, there are there are good singers out there, but it's not really what they're thinking about staying on the air and making yourself a beautiful tone. When you listen to Flagstad sing, you melted in your seat.
So the focus of your program in Busseto is it's a summer program for young people. It focuses, you know, on their technique and on learning Italian and learning to really sing in the true Italian school of singing. Is that correct?
We have 3 weeks, and usually the first week is bel canto with Maestro Bonning, not shabby. And you get to do scenes and operas, and sometimes a whole opera in concert form. Then
Fabulous.
the second is the Puccini week. We go to Torre del Lago, and when my great friend Simonetta Puccini was alive, that was a living piece of history and also a pedagogue to end all pedagogues. That was the granddaughter of Puccini himself. So she would let us into rooms that nobody saw. She would take care of us in such a magnificent way and inflamed everyone's love for Puccini. We would sing the Puccini, have the master classes, sometimes calling on wonderful Signora Gasparini, a fantastic maestra coach from the Torre del Lago, from La Scala. And then we do a complete opera. We try to always do the coachings, the master classes, and then a complete concert version, sometimes staged, depending if we're outdoors. Then the third week is Verdi. And we go to Sant'Agata and we immerse ourselves in that magnificent world that Verdi put himself in. And we do a Verdi opera, and the entire city, everybody from all over turns out. And they're a very knowledgeable group. We had a bunch of the Loginisti from La Scala for the Il Cossaro that we did last year. And they were out of their minds. Out of their minds, because the singing isn't what they hear all the time.
Right.
We have baby Skipas, we have baby Callas, we have baby Sutherlands,
Right.
we have baby Tebaldis, we have baby Magda Olivero. We're inspired by these people. No one's copying anyone.
let me just say to our listening audience, all cultural arts organizations are suffering this pandemic. We have no way to do performances. We have
Right.
no tickets. There is no money. But yet, business expenses continue. We have to
Yep.
pay our insurance, our storage, everything. Try to keep the ball rolling. Hopefully we have some kind of vaccine that comes out next year and we can continue rolling.
Right.
The thing is, companies like Opera Vision and Central Florida Lyric Opera and many companies like that are doing what we're doing, they're going to go out of business if they don't have the support and love of people who understand what we're doing and are willing to take the step to give a donation. I am saying if you're in a position right now where you can make a donation to help keep our organizations alive, do so. Aprile needs your help with this organization. You can go to that website and you can make a donation today. $100 makes the world of difference.
It does. And what's interesting is it's very important for the Central Florida Lyric, because now I'm hoping, as you were kind enough to broach that subject, I am hoping to bring as an outlet these young singers to have the chance to work in an environment with an orchestra on stage. Yours is the absolute lifeblood of any singer. We need to teach them, we need to get them ready, we need to inspire them, but we need a place to put them. So the Central Florida Lyric has got to continue. And the one thing I just want to remind people of, I had my very good friend, and I'm notoriously name dropping this, but she was like a real great friend, Elizabeth Taylor, and I talked about all of her beautiful jewelry. She had Van Goghs and Picassos and all sorts of, I mean, every painter you could think of was on her wall. And I said to her, you know, she was having a bad time after her mom passed away, and I went to see her, literally drove all the way from New York, drove because I wanted to make sure to get to her because I knew she was going to have a bad time. And she said that you're one of the few people that came to see me. But the beautiful thing that she said to me was, I have all of these beautiful things, right? And I am not the reason they're beautiful. They're beautiful. So I want to take care of them. They're in my care until I pass them forward. So what I have as the idea is all of the people who love classical music and love the human voice in the service to classical music and to harmony, we are giving our jewelry to those people. And in order to keep us safe and keep us ready to be passed forward to a next generation, we're going to need the people who know how to take care of that awesome responsibility. And it's not as if there isn't a casual amount of money always spent on sports, on all sorts of things that are done that are wonderful and fun. But the arts are our reminder that God exists.
Yes.
And it is our confirmation of it, as if we don't need it. But of course, he's kind enough to leave us this as a confirmation. But it is a reminder that there is a world after us.
Yes.
So in Opera Vision, my word to them always is pass forward the beautiful.
Yes. Aprile, thank you so much for joining us today. It was
such fun
with you. When I talk with you, it feels like I'm talking with my sister. So it's wonderful. We're going to leave everyone with a fabulous clip right now of your singing.
Oh, which one?
That you recorded at the Metropolitan Opera with the great tenor Placido Domingo. This is the final scene.
Oh.
And I believe this won an Emmy Award.
Yes, this particular production for Brian Large and the wonderful people involved in filming it. They went crazy over the program and they gave it an Emmy. We won an Emmy for this.
Fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining us. Enjoy this last clip.
Thank you, Maestro.
Vaida. Thank you, Aprile. God bless.
Maestro. Thank you for everything.
Take care. Thank you so much for joining us for today's show. I want to take this opportunity to invite you to go to centralfloridalyric.opera.org. Make a donation to keep beautiful music flowing. If you click on the donate button, the PayPal donate button, your donations will go to help support the artists that you've heard today on the show, as well as to help support our company and to keep us rolling during this COVID-19 pandemic, and to enable us to continue to bring beautiful music to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night.